Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I'll go now. Bye. Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes,
Yes,
miss.
ma'am.
Please send to chat. No, you just send a message. Okay, present or good morning, so that I can take your attendance from there. Okay, like last time.
Ma'am.
Send a message with my name or present. And then ah, not time.
All right. Did you get the attachment I sent yesterday, Google Classroom? How many of you got the attachment? Just a few. There are 43 of you who has already joined the Google Classroom. So I forgot to tell you in the group, but I have sent one attachment, okay? Is it possible for you to see the attachment I sent? Is it possible? Just check. Those who didn't get it, those who have not opened, please open your, go to your Google Classroom. Go to your Google Classroom, and then there you will find an attachment that I have sent, okay? So that is,
Yes, ma'am.
that is what we are going to discuss today, right? It is on the characteristic features of Renaissance. Now, most of you know, except for those who were not present on the first few days of our class, I think most of you know the meaning of Renaissance. So that is the first definition that is given there. It may differ a little bit, okay, it may vary, but then the subject is the same, right? If you words, the way it is defined, the structure of the sentences may differ from one source to the other source. But then the meaning is still the same, right? So in your handout that I've given, there is the meaning of Renaissance that was given to you, right? Okay, I think there are still some of you who cannot hear. Long Say Hing, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Ting Tui Lo, can you hear? Tuvelo,
Yes, yes, ma'am. I can hear you, ma'am.
okay, Tuvelo. You have to unmute when you answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Lichio, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Zulusenla. Okay, Tim Chianger,
Yes, ma'am.
you are there. No, I can't see your face. That's why I'm just checking whether you have just kept it and doing some other work.
No, ma'am.
Munalo, can you hear?
Yes.
Remichon? Remichon, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Nayong, where are you? I hope you're not eating.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
I cannot
I can
see
hear
your
you.
face. I hope you're not having your lunch.
Yes.
You can hear, no? Okay,
Yes, ma'am. I'm happy.
Ruth,
No
Ruth?
problem. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Megorino, are you there? Megorino?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Azonyo? Azonyo?
Yes,
I think Azonyo can't hear, isn't it? Azonyo? Marangak?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Okay, Lijan Beni? Lijan Beni?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope you are not sending substitute to say yes, ma'am, because I cannot see your face. Tepu salu, tepu salu,
Ma'am.
Twisamla,
Yes, ma'am.
Liti, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Panet Netlong,
Yes, ma'am.
then Imsukukla, Imsukukla,
Yes, ma'am.
Cyrilla, 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 where is Atiko? Atiko, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ruyamtik,
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
okay. LP's name?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
All right. Hyson. Hyson?
Yes, ma'am.
Asani. Asani. Asani is not there. Ngambang.
Yes, ma'am.
Inisapi. Inisapi.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Most of you, even though you, I don't know whether you have muted your video or not. So even if you have, I can't see you, you are there. Okay, so Renaissance is a French word. Now, depending on your network, sometimes my voice will just go and come, okay? But if possible, recording, I will try to send in your Google Classroom again, right, to, today's class. So you need not worry about that. So Renaissance is a French word which means reborn, rebirth, okay? And here we're talking about rebirth, particularly in literature, right? We're not going to see Renaissance was a movement that took place all over the world, okay? The European, especially the European countries. So the word Renaissance, you have heard, you are hearing not for the first time, okay? So Renaissance is a word you must have come across in your history. Renaissance is a word you are very familiar with, your political science, right? So Renaissance was a rebirth and a revival that took place in the European countries, okay, in all areas, in the sense political, economic, sociological, and historically. All right. So it was a revival that occurred in the whole of Europe. So therefore, just like historically, Renaissance rebirth took place, politically rebirth took place, and sociologically, and etc. Even in literature, also there was a rebirth that took place. Okay, so Renaissance denotes the revival in literature. Renaissance denotes the revival of ancient literature and see, before we go to the Egyptian period, there was a transition period that took place. Now we're talking about Old English or Old period and the new period that began to evolve in literature. So Renaissance brought about a great change, okay, in literature as well. So the old literature, which is frequently or most popularly referred to as classical. Are you familiar with the term classical? How many of you are familiar with the term classical? Just raise your hand. Classical. Okay. How many of you have listened to classical music? How many of you listens to classical music? Okay. How many of you likes classical music? How many of you are friends of classical music? See, unfortunately, you guys are not here. But if you were here in Patkai on the campus, you will get to hear a lot of classical music from the Margaret Shishak School of Music, MSSM. Okay, they have all these concerts with people coming from outside of India, from abroad. Okay, coming and giving classical concerts on the campus. All right. So there are many who does not really like classical music. It sounds boring to them, okay? But there are many who, again, those who are really into music and those who really understand music, they really love classical music. So that which is ancient, okay? That which is in Nagamis we call Purana, okay? That which is ancient, that which is old, okay? Are referred to as classical in simple terms. All right. So even in literature also there is this term called classical literature, right? So Renaissance was a movement that revived this classical literature, that revived this classical classical culture and classical reawakening of the classical literature after a long period, okay? After a long period in the Middle Ages. Now, coming to how this Renaissance came about. So there was this very famous city called Constantinople. How many of you have heard of the name Constantinople? Constantinople? How many of you have heard? If you have not heard of it, okay, you must try to find out what is this place called Constantinople. In the Middle Ages, middle period, okay. See, you will find that history of English literature, your ENG 111, is very similar to any other history subject. Okay. So we will be talking about places, okay, names of places. We will be talking about wars, okay. We will be talking about various reformations that were seen in the course of history. So as I told you in the beginning also, it will be more like a history class, okay. But our study will be focused on literature, right? So you will find that so many things are so similar with that of history paper. Okay, so that is something that you have to keep in mind. So now coming to where this revival of reawakening of knowledge in literature took place. See, in the year 1453. Okay, in the year 1453, Constantinople, which was a very famous city, okay, very prosperous and very luxuriant city, was overtaken by the Turks. Okay, was conquered by the Turks in 1453. Now, Constantinople was the seat of learning. Okay, so many scholars lived in Constantinople at that period of time. Okay, during the 15th and 16th century, there were so many scholars who existed in Constantinople, but it was conquered by the Turks in 1453. So what happened was, all these Greek scholars, they went, okay? They took shelter in Italy, okay? And in Italy, they began to propagate their knowledge, right? So they left Constantinople and they went and took shelter in Italy. Maybe Italy was a country which used to give asylum to such people during that time, right? Even now also we have, you see, if there are some people who are, who are on the wanted lists by some terrorists, some countries give shelter to them, right? So like that, even these Greek scholars, when they left Constantinople, they took shelter in Italy. And when they went to Italy, they took along with them all their manuscripts, meaning all their writings. And it was in Italy that they began to propagate their culture. They began to, in other words, they began to spread their knowledge, their culture, okay? So the study and this knowledge they spread, the classical literature they began to propagate in Italy was mostly the study of Greek literature, okay? How many of you have watched the movie The Wrath of the Titans or The Clash of the Titans? Okay, there are so many nowadays. There are so many modernized version of that so-called Titans. All right. Now, all those movies, be it the Clash of the Titans, the Wrath of the Titans, okay, all those movies are based on, you know, which mythology? Anyone knows?
Roman.
Greek.
Greek.
That.
Greek mythology, right? They are based on Greek mythology. There might be some changes, but the story of those movies are based on Greek mythologies. So we have names like Poseidon, okay? We have names like Hades, we have names like Zeus, Olympus, okay? And then that lady with so many heads of snakes, Medusa, right? All those are Greek names. And all those are taken from Greek mythology. So that means referring to the classical knowledge, the classical literature of the Greeks. So this knowledge was taken to Italy and they began to teach the Greek classical literature, spread the Greek Greek culture among the Italians in Italy. Okay, so they also had in their spread of knowledge. See, in England, okay, or in many European countries, okay, the word religion was very, very strict. Morality was very, very strict. Okay, so God was feared by people. So they were clothed from head to toe. They were very fully clothed, and they never really knew how to appreciate the beauty of this human body, right? So another aspect of the rebirth, the reawakening of knowledge was when the Greek scholars began to spread their knowledge, their learning. An aspect of the appreciation of the human body was also emphasized upon. Okay, so write down this word, sensuousness. S-E-N, S-E-N, S-O-U-S-N-E-S-S. Sensuousness. Okay, so sensuousness is a word that is to do with, here in this context, appreciation of human body, appreciation of the sensuousness of human body. So this was another aspect that was brought about by the new reawakening of knowledge. All right, so I want you to for tomorrow's class, I want you to explore a little more on the word sensuousness. Okay, if you go through the material that I gave you, you will find it as well. So the human body which was despised, the human body which was ill-treated, the human body which was not given importance at all, began to be glorified. Okay, and this came to be known as sensuousness. All right. So, see, the Renaissance, in essence, was an intellectual rebirth, okay, intellectually reawakening. It was not a rebirth of wealth. We are not talking here about the rebirth of wealth, the rebirth of economy. We're talking about the intellectual rebirth. All right. So, Renaissance was an intellectual rebirth because it showed the effort, okay, of the individual to free oneself from the rigid regulations of the Middle Ages. Okay, there was so much of rigidity in the Middle Age. Okay, so it was a kind of liberating oneself from the rigidity of the Middle Ages. So that was the revival that took place all over Europe. Now coming to England, because we are going to do English literature, the history of English literature. See, even if the rebirth took place after the Turks conquered Constantinople in 1453, in England, English Renaissance began, okay, only with the accession of King Henry VII. All right. When King Henry VII ascended to the throne of England in 1485, then came the revival, reawakening of literature in England. Okay, so how did this reawakening come to England? See, as a movement, Renaissance, as a movement affecting the English nation, it blossomed during the reign of Queen Elizabeth, but it started with King Henry VII. Are you clear with that? Renaissance started in England with the accession of the throne of England by King Henry VII, but it reached its pinnacle. It reached its peak, okay, or it reached its climax during the reign of Queen Elizabeth. All right, that is why Elizabethan age is also called the golden period of English literature. That is something you have to keep in mind, okay? The Elizabethan age is also called the golden age. You are going to study 6 ages, 5 ages. Out of all these ages, the Elizabethan age is the only age that is called the golden age of literature in England, okay, in English. So it started in 1485 with the accession of King Henry VII to the throne of England. And that is how there were so many reawakening, rebirth that took place. English poetry, English drama, okay, all began to go through significant changes in their style of writing, in the subject matter that was treated, all right? So for example, Romeo and Juliet was written by Shakespeare during Elizabethan period. During the Middle Ages, this was a subject that would never be spoken about, right? So how many of you speaks about your boyfriend or your girlfriend to your parents? Show me your hand. Okay, see, during our time, speaking about our boyfriend and girlfriend was a taboo. Okay, the moment I say, Mom, I like a Kai, I will get a tight slap on my face. Because it was a taboo. We were not supposed to speak about it, so rigid. Okay, but now things have changed. Your generation can now freely speak about the guy you like, the girl you like, okay, to your parents. All right. So those are the changes that took place, that are taking place even today. So see, Shakespeare writing Romeo and Juliet was something that would never have happened in the Middle Ages in English literature. None of the literary figures would have even thought of writing on such a subject, romantic subject. Okay, so therefore those were the significant changes that were brought about by Renaissance in England as well. All right, so those are some of the aspects of Renaissance that we will be, that you will find in the handout that I have given you. Okay. Now the slide, we have just about 2 minutes left now. So the slide that I have shared with you, along with that, this handout which I have given to you, read only the Renaissance portion, okay, not the Elizabethan sonnet and sonneteers. That is a different topic that we will be taking up in another class, okay? But for tomorrow's class, please go through the slide that I've given you, okay? If you have written it. If not, tomorrow I will show you again. No need to worry about that. But this handout which I've given you is there in Google Classroom. Everyone must read it. Okay. I will be asking 2 questions to 2 very lucky people tomorrow. The luckiest people tomorrow will be asked 2 questions based on the handout that I have given you in Google Classroom. Right. So you come ready with that. Okay. And so that is it with today's class. Okay. Okay, then thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Aquí mama como pichide o buena. Mucho clase so. Mucho gané goto mucho ro. Baro baji de ahora esta clase. Ya llegué tú. एक बजे ने देने में पहुंचो. ओके.